Hey everybody, welcome back to The Stuff of Legend. My name is D-Lo and I've got another video for you guys. Today I'm going to be talking about everything you missed this week and a little bit more. I wanted to go over a lot of the topics that have been shared, probably a lot of the mainstream news has covered, and then a few of these things that you may have missed. I particularly like to talk about the stuff that you guys have missed, but there's a couple things that interweave with some of these things so heavily I can't possibly avoid them. So I wanted to get into this with you. Thank you guys for tuning in, and let's go ahead and jump right into this one so we can get started with the news. Thank you guys for joining in. Let's jump right in and not beat around the bush. Spider-Man is back in the MCU, boys. He is here. He is home where he needs to be, and it happened because Disney finally caved to the more realistic deal that they needed to come to. They needed to come to a compromise, and they weren't willing at first. That's what caused this entire split. They wanted 100% control of Sony's Marvel properties, and they said, you know what? No, sorry, we'll give you more money, and Disney walked away. They said, no, it's not about the money, it's about control. Well, as it turns out, it is about money and control, but they can't have the control, so they'll settle for the money. So they ended up going from a 5% profit margin on the box office to a 25%. They were originally asking 50% plus total control of the character rights through, and this was masked. Not a lot of people saw this because it's not what was said, it's what happens because of what was said. But they were talking about co-financing the films. If they co-finance the films, they get the rights. That wasn't what was going to happen. So Sony and them went separate ways, but it looks like at the end of the day, they both really need each other and want to work with each other very much. They just had come to a somewhat of a stalemate. Now that's over. It's done. Spidey is back. Tom Holland is where he needs to be for the time being. And by the way, that means he can be in both now. I'm going to get into why I think this is the case, but also you guys can go ahead and read this for yourselves as well. I'm going to read just three key points right here. So coming off of CNBC, and by the way, this article, this news hit every single news outlet. It was unbelievable how many different types of news coverage were covering this story. So or news sites, I should say. But it says here, as part of the arrangement, Spider-Man will also appear in future Marvel Studios films. This is correct. He also says, I am thrilled that Spidey's journey in the MCU will continue, and I and all of us at Marvel Studios are very excited that we get to keep working on it, said President Kevin Feige in the statement. Then it says the terms of the deal were not disclosed at the time. I believe there might be more information out now that you can find, but I'm just going to leave this here so you guys can do the homework yourselves, and I will get back to you about those details in a separate video. It says here, the terms of the deal were not disclosed at the time. Sony declined to comment on the terms, but said, we have had a great collaboration over the last 4 years, and our mutual desire to continue was equal to that of many fans. We are delighted to be moving forward together. Basically saying that as it stands, they have come back to a similar arrangement to what was before. However, Marvel will be taking a little bit more of the money, and Sony will remain the sole financer of the Spider-Man films, so as to not lose him in his character rights. So that's what they are going to do, but they're allowing him to be in the MCU. So this is essentially status quo as far as it pertains to fans. It's status quo with the hint of some really interesting possibilities coming forward. So I don't want to linger too far on this, but just so you guys know, this means that Spider-Man 3 will be as Far From Home and Homecoming was. It's a Sony film that exists within the MCU, and that's what's going to happen. So let's take a look at what this means for the year 2021, guys. So the next Spider-Man film, on the topic of Spider-Man being back in the MCU, what does this mean for the year 2021? Well, it was already shaping up to be a huge year for Marvel, and now it has broken a Marvel Studios record. Spider-Man coming back into the MCU will make itself the 4th MCU film of 2021. So Spider-Man 3 has a release date scheduled for 2021, making it the 4th. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of these. And I would like to also point out that it's not just the 4th MCU film, it is the 8th MCU project coming out if you include the TV series that will be in the MCU with movie studio budgets on the Disney streaming service as a television series. So there will be 4 series and 4 films now. That's 8 total in the MCU. This is a big, big deal. This is more Marvel than we've ever gotten in one year. And that's not including any other side projects that may happen or occur that happen to also either involve Marvel or other comic book companies. Big, big year for us, the fans. So let's go ahead and take a look. We have here, we have this for the films. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings on February 12th. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness on May 7th. The untitled Spider-Man 3 movie, July 16th. And Thor, Love and Thunder on November 5th. And that's just for the film. So go ahead and let me know what you guys think that third Spider-Man film is going to be titled. It's probably going to have something to do with home or a play on the word home. I've got a long list of names that I've come up with as well. I've did this on Twitter, joking around with people on Instagram. But I would like to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you think that the third name for that Spider-Man film is going to be? And now let's take a look at the 4 TV series that will also be coming out in 2021, guys. So we know that those 4 films, Shang-Chi, Spider-Man 3, we've got Doctor Strange 2, and Thor 4 are all coming out in 2021. Now we're also reminded that WandaVision, the TV series, MCU TV series with a movie studio budget, is going to be happening in 2021 in the spring. So you can see that here. And then you also see Loki, the live-action Loki series, is also going to be spring 2021. We go down a little further and we see Feige describe the animated series. Marvel's What If project will be coming out in the summer of 2021. And we also have the Hawkeye series scheduled for the fall of 2021. Now, this is important because we don't really know what it's going to look like as far as the order of the films. I'm sorry, we know what the films are going to look like, but we don't know what the schedule will be in relation to the films for these TV shows. So the TV shows, we have season release dates. So fall, spring, summer, that spans several months. It spans several weeks. So it's hard to pinpoint the exact order in which the MCU films and TV shows are going to come out exactly, because some of them take place, some of the films are in the spring, and there's also spring releases for the TV series. And so it's really difficult to try to pin down what that's going to look like. But I'm sure that as the date draws near, we will get release dates for those things. So just pay attention, guys, and I'll keep you guys up to date. As soon as I know of any dates that are locked in for those TV series, we can finally lock in a schedule and really anticipate what we think is going to happen there. So let me know what you guys think about that down below in the comments. And lastly, on the note of Spider-Man, there's some very interesting movie news. So on the note of Spider-Man, I wanted to share with you guys this maybe a little bit. This article came out the same day, but a couple hours before the news broke about Spider-Man being back in the MCU. So it says here, and this is a little bit of an ill timing because it was literally right before they announced he was back in the MCU. There was no way the writer of this article, Courtney Jackson, could have known. None of us knew, but hey, this is just what it is. So, but Sony knew. Keep that in mind. Sony was aware of what was happening with Marvel and what was happening with the deal. It just wasn't announced yet, so keep this in mind, guys. It says Sony keeping Spider-Man franchise alive with new spin-off movie, and it's talking here disappointment over Spider-Man custody battle between Sony and Disney Marvel still hasn't waned, as far as she was aware when she was writing this article. And literally, as soon as she hit publish, they started making their announcements to the press about Spider-Man being back in the MCU. But that's actually a good thing because I'll give you guys my speculations and my theory after we read this. It says, and fans are still holding out hope that Disney will be willing to make concessions at some point on the deal. So making compromises and not saying all or nothing. And that's exactly what happened. It says, fret not, Spider-Man fans, because another story in the Spider-Verse is on the horizon. Sony is keeping the mythology alive with a different character in the comics, and she's not an angry villain. Then it says here, a Madam Web movie is in the works. And so if you guys don't know who Madam Web is, this picture kind of does her justice, but not really. This is a little bit more into her origin, but how most people know Madam Web who are fans of Madam Web, they're fans of her usually because of the 90s TV series for Spider-Man. The animated Spider-Man TV series introduced Madam Web to the masses as a character that links the entire multiverse. She's kind of like the Watcher, where she sees all of the realities, all of the multiverse, all of the universe, but in Spider-Man's world, in Spider-Man's universe, which is the same as the rest of the Marvel universe, but in the context of this cinematic universe division and the complexities of, oh, there's a Sonyverse with Venom that's separate from the MCU. Tom Holland is in both the MCU and technically in the Sonyverse. What's going to happen here? Madam Web is the bridge between all of Spider-Man's multiverses in the comics and in the old TV shows, and that's who she is. She was written to be the bridge between all the Spidey worlds. Her power is that she can access, she can see and tap into and traverse and travel, manipulate the multiverse in a way. And so what she does oftentimes is she sees chaos happening in the multiverse, and she snatches up the Peter Parker Spider-Man from 616 universe, and then she drops him into other multiverses to help solve some problems. And she even brings other Spider-Man from other universes into this 616 universe and so forth. And so what this means, guys, is that at the exact same day, the same day that we find out about Spider-Man being back in the MCU is the same day we found out about the Madam Web movie being in the works. And so it says here, as reported by Collider, Sony has greenlit a Madam Web film based on the comic book character who first appeared in the 80s. Her real name is Cassandra Webb, and she first became tangled with Spider-Man when he rescued one of her students. It's really interesting because Stan Lee's wife in the TV series, she was the voice of Madam Web. Stan Lee wrote the character and then said, you know what, in the TV series, I want my wife to voice her. And it was really good. It was a very good character, very compelling and super interesting if you're into a lot of the different types of Spider-Man, different variations in the multiverse. And that's a lot of fun. But what I think is going to happen here, guys, how the business works is when you're trying to get a film off the ground, you have to have meetings. You have to have, you have to write the story. You have to pitch it to the studio. You have to get approval to start working on it, to start coordinating with other people. It takes time. You don't just green light a film. It's a lot of prep and a lot of work. Now, if Sony has been tied up working on getting Spider-Man back into the MCU, working with Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios and Disney behind the scenes, while all of us were in chaos, the fans, they didn't leave us high and dry. They were working on it. And so at the same time as they're doing that, they're also figuring out this Madam Web thing. And then on the same day, we find out not just the Madam Web movie is in the works, but that Tom Holland's Spider-Man will continue to be owned by Sony, potentially exist inside of the Sonyverse, and also be part of the MCU as it was before. But now everything's good, everything's clear, everything's okay. And I think this probably may have been an added contribution or an idea from either Kevin Feige or the people at Sony who love Spider-Man just as much. This to me is a genius move, because if you introduce Madam Web into the Sonyverse, you have already given yourself the free pass to have Tom Holland legitimately make sense to exist in any superhero continuity he wants. He can go into the MCU in 10 different movies at the exact same time as he's making 10 different movies in the Sonyverse and being part of both, because you can just have Madam Web be the one plucking him and pulling him wherever he is needed. The MCU can be his home, and maybe he gets drafted into the Sonyverse to help stop the chaos that's going on over there. And in the MCU, he can have Venom, he can have Kraven, he can have the Prowler, he can have all of the villains that we've already seen so far, including like Vulture and Mysterio. You can have all of that, especially being that they introduced the multiverse in Far From Home. It looks like they're already going for multiverse for real, potentially in the Sonyverse. We know that, but potentially in the MCU as well. So there's been a lot of talk of multiverse, a lot of talk time travel with Infinity War, with Endgame, with Doctor Strange, with Ant-Man, and now we're talking about the Sonyverse bringing that up. Far From Home. It's all starting to come together. It looks like what Amy Pascal had said a long time ago about them being in the same universe and also maybe not being in the universe, crossing over, all that stuff, and then Kevin Feige's awkward face. It was supposed to be a big secret, but I believe that this is probably where they're going to go here, is that there's going to be some gnarly Sinister Six or Carnage or all kinds of bad stuff we know is coming down the pike. And this, I think, is the answer, is Madam Web. I'm really excited for this. You guys, if you don't know who Madam Web is, do a little bit of research. The links are in the description, so you can check out these articles in their full in the full length and everything. You can check out the pictures, all of it. Do the research for yourself. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you guys think that Madam Web is going to be a good idea for the MCU and for the Sonyverse to coexist together while still existing separately? Or do you think that this is a weird idea and you're not even interested at all? Let me know these things down in the comments below, and let's keep moving. All right, next up we've got, boom, some cool news. If you guys are Smallville fans, or if you guys are Supernatural fans, I will say this news is not for kids or not for younger audiences per se, because it is in reference not to a movie, not to a show, but to a podcast in which the actors get to express their stories, their tales, their opinions, and all that stuff, and they do use their own words off script. This is not a scripted thing. They come together, they have a conversation as adults, and sometimes they use adult language. So I would just be warned, if you are a younger audience member, this one's probably not for you. But if you guys remember Smallville, Lex Luthor, the actor who played Lex on Smallville, his name is Michael Rosenbaum, and he has a podcast called Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Yes, there is some innuendo and connotation there, but I warned you. So this is his podcast. I have listened to this podcast. It's very funny, and it's also interesting because he happens to know a lot of our favorite people in the industry, people who have played superheroes. We're talking about Stephen Amell. We're talking about Tom Welling, talking about a lot of the DC, a lot of the CW DC actors and whatnot. They're on his podcast. But you also now get Supernatural Week. So if you're a fan of Supernatural like I am, this is really exciting because he's going to do 4 separate episodes where one of each of these guys will be on the episode at any given point. So Jared Padalecki, Jensen Ackles, Misha Collins, and Mark Shepard, who play Sam Winchester, Dean Winchester, Castiel, the Angel, and also, and then we also have Crowley, the Demon. So you have a lot of really fun actors and characters that are going to be on this, getting real, talking about their lives, talking about their experiences on the show, and the show's coming to a very climactic end this season with the 15th season. Very exciting stuff. But I'll let you guys read all of that down below, the quotes and stuff and the descriptions for each of the episodes. I'm really excited, but check that out if you guys are fans of Supernatural, and maybe you're older and you're over 18 already, or you have some parental consent. You can check that out, but I would not check that out if you are a younger audience member. So it's viewer discretion is advised. So that I'll leave it at there. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about that down below. Are you guys excited? Have you heard Inside of You, the podcast, before with Michael Rosenbaum? Or for you, is this something that maybe is not really your style? It's okay if it's not, but let me know. Anyways, thanks, guys. Let's go to the next topic. The next topic up is Birds of Prey's Ashley Scott, who plays Huntress, is joining the Arrow vs. Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. This is huge, guys. I mean, we were already talking about a lot of people that are suiting up and booting up, getting some crazy appearances and actions. I don't know if they're going to be cameos or heavy roles, but it's really exciting. We're going to get at least probably 3 Supermen, 2 Lois Lanes. I'm assuming at least 1 Lex Luthor. We're gonna now have the Huntress is joining the party from Birds of Prey. If you guys don't know, I'm not talking about Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. I'm talking about the 2001 Birds of Prey TV series that was on the WB. This was a short-lived TV show. a little bit lower budget. It predates Smallville, and I really liked the first few episodes. I haven't gotten into the rest of it as I've been very busy with this channel, but I will make time to watch it because I do enjoy watching that on the DC streaming service. I'm not sure where you can find that outside of DC streaming service, but if you guys have that, I believe it's $7 and you can get the DC streaming service. Not a lot of money, but a ton of great content, and you can check that out as well. A little bit of an older show, but I really liked what they did in that show. They did a lot of fun things with the characters. It is very dated, but it is a lot of fun. I like watching dated stuff. So that to me is really fun. I'll let you guys go ahead and read this, but it looks like we have a confirmation here that Ashley Scott is joining the Arrowverse crossover. And so, yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. Are you guys excited to see more Birds of Prey action in here? Some of that classic early 2000s action over here? I, for one, am, but I want your opinion. Anyways, thank you guys. Let's keep rolling. The next topic is James Gunn is uniting Marvel and DC once again. So this, to me, is big. And I want you guys to see my response to this tweet because it perfectly encapsulates in a very short paragraph how I felt about this. So first, I'll read his tweet. So first, let's jump ahead. Take a look at his tweet. So he says, starting production on hashtag The Suicide Squad. As you know, James Gunn is not only the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 and 3, but he's also directing The Suicide Squad for DC. So he's Marvel and DC, which is pretty rare. And it says, I received perhaps the coolest and sweetest start of production gift ever, along with a note of how excited they are for the movie from Kevin, Lou, Victoria, Mary, and Jonathan at Marvel Studios. So Marvel Studios reached out to James Gunn, and of course he's one of them as well, but they gave him a celebratory gift for starting production, and they said, hey, we're really excited for you to make The Suicide Squad with DC, and we can't wait to see it. They're showing their support, and I think this is very big of them. This is very mature because obviously it was Disney's fault that James Gunn was thrown out. They basically didn't give him a chance to defend himself. He got thrown out, and then he gets hired at Sony, makes Brightburn, which I predicted he was going to do the Suicide Squad. I also predicted he's going to do Man of Steel 2. That's still up in the air whether or not he may or may not take that. It's looking like J.J. Abrams might get that, but nevertheless, it says here that Marvel's showing some respect. They're showing some love for the comic book company, DC Comics, that is their rival. Not necessarily film-wise, but it has always been a you call it a rivalry, a rival company. Not maliciously rivalry, but it is nevertheless someone that they compete with. And even though most would argue that Marvel is crushing DC as far as films, which I don't think could be refuted or disputed, but man, this is a really good thing. And I want to show you guys my thoughts. And you guys know I'm getting scatterbrained right now because there's so much going on in my head right now I want to say, but check this out. So it says here, I said this on my Twitter. I love to see this stuff. I love to see stuff like this. It gives me hope that in the next 15, 20 years, we could get a legit live action Marvel versus DC crossover. Respect from Marvel to DC and vice versa is huge. And I tagged Zachary Levi, who plays Shazam for DC. And I said, looking at you too. And the reason I said that was because Zachary Levi plays Shazam, who is known as Captain Marvel. But there was the lawsuit way back in the day that Captain Marvel sued DC for the right to have the name Captain Marvel, and they won, and they got Captain Marvel. And so that's always kind of been a little bit of a point of contention for Marvel and DC. But Zachary Levi has been very vocal about supporting not only Captain Marvel the film, Brie Larson, but also all of his fellow Marvel buddies, because he also worked for Marvel. He was someone else that also crossed both lines. Much like Miranda Baccarin from Deadpool and Gotham, you know, there's a lot of actors and actresses that have crossed both lines. And now with the Suicide Squad, there's a lot of Marvel actors that are going from Marvel into the Suicide Squad. And it's quite a bit. I think there's 6, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was like 6 actors, well, 6 people if you include James Gunn himself. But yeah, so there's a lot of crossing over, and Marvel has love for DC. Marvel's got love for them, even if this is just for good PR, good press. I still think that this is the right move. I think this is something that needs to happen because a lot of fans nowadays feel a need to pick a side, Marvel or DC, when in reality, I'm pretty sure at our heart, most of us love all of these films. If not, we watch them anyways and then critique the heck out of the one we say we don't like. But it's okay because that's part of movie fandom, that's part of film fandom, and that's also part of comic book fandom, is that you get to pick which ones you like. But for a lot of us, we're fans of all of it, man. I'm a fan of Marvel, I'm a fan of DC, just like Zachary Levi, just like James Gunn, fan of both. And I'm a fan of much fiction. That's what I say. You guys know that about me. I'm a fan of much fiction, and I know you are too. So this is a big thing. And I think that in reality, I think that gestures like this from Marvel Studios mean something because I think this shows that they are willing to bridge that gap, kind of like how they have with Sony. Kind of like, I mean, with Fox it was different because they bought the dang thing, but with DC and Warner Brothers, they're not going to buy that. They can't. They'd start to monopolize. But in this situation, they build the bridges, they build the connections, probably have some meetings with Walter Hamada down at Warner Brothers and Jeff Johns, put their heads together and come up with some really, really cool crossover events that might be able to happen 15 or 20 years from now. And I think that's something that is going to happen now that you have a lot of these actors and directors and producers crossing the lines for both of these things. So that was something really fun and interesting that happened recently on social media. I wanted to point out to you guys. So let me know what you guys think about this down below. Do you think that this means that we might be able to get a Marvel versus DC or some sort of team up or crossover or fight between the two of them on the live action, on the big screen, or the small screen? Maybe it's a TV series. That would be a lot of fun. Tell me what you think about this down below, or am I crazy and this theory is totally blown out of the water? I want to hear your thoughts, and let's go ahead and move on to the last topic of the day. The last topic of the day is, boom, ObiWan Kenobi series on Disney Plus lands a director, and the director is Deborah Chou. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking, because this was something that I thought at first. My first thought, because I did not recognize the name Deborah Chou, was, I'll bet you this is another affirmative action thing from Kathleen Kennedy, like when she fired all the male writers from Star Wars and hired an entire cast of female writers that had not worked on Star Wars projects before. That was something that bothered a lot of people and ended up proving itself to be righteously infuriating when The Last Jedi came out and really, really disappointed many fans. But with that being said, I think this is one of the best moves that Kathleen Kennedy has done so far, is getting Deborah Chou to play or to direct the ObiWan Kenobi series, because this chick does not mess around. I want to show you guys some of her credits. So Deborah Chou right here, this lady right here, you can hear this quote really quick. I'll read this one off. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy stated, "We really wanted to select a director who is able to explore both the quiet determination and rich mystique of Obi-Wan in a way that folds seamlessly into the Star Wars saga. Based on her phenomenal work developing our characters in The Mandalorian, I'm absolutely confident Deborah is the right director to tell the story." So, I want to speak to a lot of the people that were very upset by The Last Jedi, because you're just like me. This is something that we have in common. So if you guys were not upset at The Last Jedi, bear with me for a second. Just go with me on this. A lot of people were upset with Kathleen Kennedy because of the affirmative action and the feminism that she injected. Not just feminism, but the man-hating feminism that she injected into Star Wars. And her comments around Star Wars, her comments at Comic-Con, in interviews, all kinds of stuff where she constantly took dumps on the male fans. Now, this could look like another move of affirmative action here at first, but I want to show you guys why that's not the case. I want to show you guys why, heck yeah, this totally rocks, and this gets me really excited. This is someone, Deborah Chou has worked not only with Kathleen Kennedy before on The Mandalorian, but now we know that she's on The Mandalorian, must have worked with Dave Filoni, and she must have worked with Jon Favreau, both of which are massive classical Star Wars fans, and they are very, very much devoted to the characters, the stories, the source material of the traditional lore of Star Wars. And I think that shows itself very well if you paid attention to the trailers. But this director, whose name I did not recognize at first, but I want to go over some of this stuff with you guys. This article does list some of her credits here, but that's okay because I wanted to do something better. I'm going to go Deborah Chou, IMDb. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys her directorial IMDb. That way you guys can see what it is that she has directed. So here, as a director, she has 24 credits. Let me show you why I think this chick is great for this. So it's been announced that she's going to be doing The Possibility of Fireflies, which I have no idea what that is. The untitled Star Wars ObiWan Kenobi series. Yes, really excited. That's what we're talking about. But it says here, she's done 2 episodes for The Mandalorian. 2 episodes for The Mandalorian. She's also done 1 episode of American Gods, which is, I believe that was nominated for some awards, if I'm not mistaken. The Man in the High Castle, which I've heard a lot of my friends raving about. You may have as well. Maybe you've seen that show. Let me know if that one's worth watching down below. But I know a lot of people love that show, The Man in the High Castle. And she directed 1 episode of that. Better Call Saul. She's directed 1 episode of that. The episode called Something Stupid in 2018. People like that show a lot. Also, Snowfall. 1 episode. Jingle Bell Rock. I've never seen that show. Let me know if you guys think that that is a persuasive argument. I'm going to go down the list real quick. We see Lost in Space. This is one that me and my wife really, really enjoyed. This is a Netflix series called Lost in Space. She did 1 episode, the episode called Transmission. I really liked that series. It's very well done. And I really like the style that was in that one. It's very different from a lot of these other pieces, but I did like that one very much. And she was a part of that. She did 1 of those. Then also you have Jessica Jones on Netflix. So she was involved with the Netflix Marvel series. She did 1 episode, aka God Help the Hobo. And if you guys like Jessica Jones, you may want to revisit that and just take a look at some of the artistic style of this director and how that episode came into place and how it fell together. Shut Eye. I've never seen that. I won't comment. But it says Fear the Walking Dead, 2 episodes. T-E-O, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Twalki, I don't know. Maybe you have to spell. Maybe it's an acronym or something. But Teotwawki. And then also Los Muertos. That series, Fear the Walking Dead. A lot of fans of The Walking Dead prefer The Walking Dead to Fear the Walking Dead, but nevertheless, still a great production. And also Rain. My wife really, really likes Rain. I don't care for Rain, but not because it doesn't have good production. It's just not my kind of story. And so with Rain, she did 6 episodes here. Dead of Night, Spiders in a Jar, In a Clearing, Abandoned, Sins of the Past. And then she also did 1 episode of Iron Fist in 2017. She did Lead Horse Back to Stable. And then she also did Tyrant, Turn, Washington Spies, The Vampire Diaries, Hell is Other People. She's also done Mr. Robot. That's the one with Rami Malek, or Rami Malek, however you want to say that. And then also Beauty and the Beast. Now, this is the CW Beauty and the Beast. I really like this one. CW's Beauty and the Beast was really, really interesting, and I really liked the style of directing that was in that show from start to finish. I really did enjoy that a great deal. And she did the episode Both Sides Now in 2015. Then Murdoch Mysteries, Flowers in the Attic, Copper, The High Cost of Living, The Hill, and Day Pass. So if you guys have seen any of these things, which I will bet that you have, or you will see how she does in The Mandalorian, I'm really excited because she's incredibly talented. She knows the stories of Star Wars based on what we see here, her working on The Mandalorian. We know that Jon Favreau isn't gonna just pull anybody. he's going to make sure he's involved. He's going to make sure that he helps coach and guide and work closely with the people he brings on board. Jon Favreau doesn't mess around. He only produces and directs greatness. And that's, you know, he's for the vast majority of his work, it's been golden turning points for viewers in America. If you liked Elf, not only did he act in Elf as the doctor in Elf, that was there when Elf was eating like the cotton balls, but he also directed that movie. That was his movie. And he also directed Iron Man. Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2. I really liked Iron Man 2. A lot of people were like, Iron Man 2, it wasn't that great. I love Iron Man 2. Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and he was a producer on most of the MCU films, including Endgame, Infinity War, a lot of the big crossovers. He was a producer. He's always been involved. He's big nerd, big time nerd. And I know she is too. She also worked on Jessica Jones and Iron Fist, which is really cool. Mr. Robot, American Gods, Better Call Saul. So if you're a fan of any of that, there's hope. There's reason to believe that this isn't just picking a female director because she's female. It's picking a freaking great director because she's a freaking great director. And that to me is what I think that's the kind of stuff we need to see from Kathleen Kennedy. And if you guys are still upset with Kathleen, I am still upset a little bit. Obviously, you can tell from my tone and the way that I speak about this topic. But with Star Wars, I gotta say, I'm not really mad about a lot of the Star Wars stuff. Like I was mad about Solo at first, but after seeing it, I was like, you know what? Wasn't bad. It was actually pretty good. And I love Rogue One, also a Kathleen Kennedy thing. I love the Indiana Jones franchise. That's all Kathleen Kennedy. I love E.T. That's Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, if you look at Kathleen Kennedy's resume, she's one of the most successful producers in Hollywood, next to Kevin Feige himself. And so now we're gonna have a lot of really creative, powerful people that know how to do their jobs working together. And I think this time around, they're gonna try to keep Kathleen Kennedy as uninvolved with the creative process as possible and allow people like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to kind of brainstorm and come up with some of these ideas, specifically with The Mandalorian, but Dave Filoni as a consultant for all Star Wars projects. And now we know Kevin Feige is going to come in and step in and help out a little bit with at least one project. So really excited. A lot of hope on the horizon for Star Wars. So let me know what you guys think about this down below. Anyways, guys, that is the last topic we have for this segment. So I just wanted to close out with just a big thank you to everybody who has supported me on this channel. If you guys haven't already, please click the subscribe button and please turn on notifications to be alerted right away when I go live next time. That way you guys won't miss a thing. You can be part of the live chat. You guys can communicate with me, join that conversation. I'd love to talk with you guys, answer any questions you might have. Also, guys, in the description of this video, if you want to know how you can support my channel even more than just subscriptions, likes, comments, which are greatly appreciated. If you want to help support me financially and maybe even get some merch for yourself, the merch store link for my TeePublic is down in the description below. So if you scroll down below the video, you click the first link that you'll see. That's my TeePublic. You can go there. I've got over 130 designs. I've got Joker, Batman. I've got all kinds of like Superman logos. I've got Hall of Fame designs, so basically every actor that's played any of those characters is on there. I've got some Supernatural shirts. I've, of course, got my own merch, Fan of Much Fiction. I've got a lot of my Stuff of Legend. I've got some with my media on it. But you guys can get those either t-shirts, long sleeves, tank tops, sweaters. You can get hoodies, zip-ups, all kinds of like mugs, totes, pillows, stickers, magnets, pins. There's a lot of wall art you can get as well for a lot of the different Power Rangers characters. Everything you see there, I have on full product line, so you can see a design you like and get whatever you want. That's a good way to support me and my channel financially. If you want to see me grow and get some new tech, get some upgrades, that'll be the way to do it. And I really, really appreciate that. You guys are the best. I don't want to plug this too much longer, but you guys stay tuned for more. And please tell me what you want to see in the comments below. And I will make a video about that. I always get back to you guys about these things. So You guys rock. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night wherever you are, and stay tuned for more right here on The Stuff of Legend.